Grade 8, let's work together with the second story. Children at work. Before you read, think about why children have to work. They help their families make a livelihood. A livelihood is what you need to do to earn money. Others run away from homes that are unhappy and have to support themselves. They can't go to school or play. Velu is 11 years old. He runs away from home. He wanders around and then gets on a train to Chennai without a ticket. He's tired, he's hungry, he doesn't know what to do, where to go when a stranger at the station welcomes him. Let's read, and I will not read word for word. When the train pulled in at Chennai, it took him some time to get off. When he was standing on the platform, his legs felt wobbly, shaky, as if he was still on a moving train. This happens when you travel on a train for a long time. "Oi, out of the way," a porter went by with a loaded trolley. He jumped aside. He sat on a bench, putting his bundle down. He'd never been to such a crowded place, except once when he went to a fair. People bumped into him. A voice was announcing something on a loudspeaker. I'm on the next page. There was a television. There was a lot of noise, and it was very confusing for him. He put his head on his knees, and he felt miserable and exhausted, very tired. For 2 days he'd eaten nothing but peanuts and a piece of jaggery. He had a shirt, a towel, and a comb. That's all he had. He'd walked most of the first day to Kannur and got on a train to Chennai. He had no money, but nobody came to check his ticket. He tried to sleep on the floor, but the people next to him had been shouting all night. "I knew the town," called out a rough voice. There was a lot of people standing around him, and he saw a girl his own age wearing a long banyan and undershirt that came down to her knees, so obviously she's poor. Her hair was stiff and brownish, kind of dirty, and she had a sack on her shoulder. She was picking up dirty plastic cups and stuffing them into her sack. She is collecting garbage. She is tidying. She's a garbage girl, cleaning up the mess that other people leave behind. And why is she calling me? And why is she wearing a banyan? Why is she dressed so funny, thinks Velu. I'm on page 9. "Don't stare," she says. "What's your name?" He tells her his name. And she begins to speak, and she guesses he's left home. He didn't want to talk to her. He could not stand his father beating him. His father was abusing him, and taking his money and drinking alcohol with it. So Velu was unhappy at home. She, however, had guessed correctly and said, "Well, I know you've run away," and still tries to be friendly in her way to him. Velu was hungry, and he pressed his stomach with a grimace. A grimace is an expression of pain. She notices that and said, "You won't get any food sitting here glumly, sadly. I can help you," she said. She started to walk away, but then Velu was confused and thought, "Should I follow? What should I do?" He decided to run after her. We come then to the first comprehension check. Velu stood on the platform, but he felt as if he was still on a moving train. Why? The answer can be Velu stood on the platform, but he felt as if he was still on a moving train because he had been on a very long train journey. What made him feel miserable? The crowds, the noise, his hunger, and his loneliness made him feel miserable. Velu traveled without a ticket. Why? Velu traveled without a ticket because he did not have money to buy one. How did he escape the ticket collector's attention? He escaped the ticket collector's attention by sitting in the unreserved compartment where the ticket collector didn't come. Why had Velu run away from home? Velu had run away from home because his father was abusive and took away his money for drink. Why did he decide to follow the strange girl? Hunger and confusion made him decide to follow the strange girl. He hoped she might be able to help him. We go on with the story on page 10. He follows the friend into a big building, and there's a big garbage bin. He wonders what they're supposed to be doing. They leave the station, and he was very worried about the traffic, smoke, and dust. He's a boy from a little village, and this horrible city is awful for him. They waited and ran through the traffic. He kept hesitating. Hesitating means to pause, until the girl finally dragged him, pulled him to the other side. What are you doing, grazing cows? If you stand around, you will be chutney. The traffic will squish you. His heart was still beating fast because he was so frightened by the traffic. He looked at the station and the traffic and said, how did they manage to get through that? Then they kept walking. I'm on page 11. He was looking at the pictures on the signboards that advertised everything. The writing was in English and he could not read it. They went onto a bridge and he was looking over the railing, and there was a road underneath going into the city. He could see buildings, towers, roads. The girl pointed him to a huge building, or showed him a huge building, and he read its sign, and it said in Tamil, Central Jail. She said, if you're not careful, you'll be in there counting the bars that are there as a cage to keep prisoners in. Squinted means to slit your eyes to be able to focus. He said, why? I haven't done anything wrong. Why should I go to jail? She said, you don't have to do anything. The police will just put you in jail. It shows that runaway children are treated unfairly in big cities. Velu's confused and wonders, what could that mean? She was already going with the sack on her shoulder. Why are you carrying that bag? What are you carrying in it? Said Velu. And she tells him she's carrying bottles and papers. He still didn't know what she wanted to do with them, but he was too shy to ask her. It was morning, but it was very hot. He had no slippers. His feet hurt. It was not like walking on the village roads. He was soaked with sweat. He wanted to walk in the shade, but she was walking really fast. After an hour, they stopped in front of a big building. Sri Rajeshwari Prasanna Kalyan Mandapam. It is obviously a mandap is a place where people get married, and groom is the man who's about to get married, bride is the woman. They were staring at the cars, there was flower garlands, roses. Obviously she has brought him to a place where a wedding is going on. She took a flower and put it in her hair, and he said, are we going to eat here? I hope, she said. Or was she teasing him? They went to the garbage bin. There were goats on it fighting for food. Flies were buzzing around. There was a rotten smell. And the girl picked up a squishy, pulpy banana and said, here's your food. Velu was shocked and said, oh my God, are we going to eat what they've left over? I'm not a dog. I don't eat dirty food. But she threw him a vada and he looked at it. This is the first time that he's had to eat leftover food from a garbage bin where goats and flies are eating. Come on, she said, eat it. You think I like it? I told you I'll find you something to eat. I don't have money to buy you. Velu hesitated. He paused. He wasn't sure, but you don't know. I don't know. We are very lucky not to know. But hunger, if we really feel it, will make us eat anything. So he swallowed the banana and vada, and he felt much better immediately. So he felt better after eating that. He could have eaten 10 times as much, but she could find only one more banana, and she ate it herself. She says it's a bit early. They've only eaten tiffin. That's a South Indian way of saying snack. You'll have to wait for them to finish lunch if you want more, but I have to work. She picked up some bottles and walked off. Velu panicked. To panic means to get worried, to get frightened. He didn't want to be alone. He didn't know what to do, so he wanted to stick with her. He didn't know her name, so he said, what's your name? And she said, I'm Jaya. Why are you following me? He said, I want to come with you. So she said, okay, come. I'm going home to get another bag. Comprehension check on page 13. Can Velu read Tamil and English? How do you know? Velu can only read Tamil because he could not read the advertisements that were written in English. If you're not careful, you'll soon be counting bars there. What is she referring to? She is referring to the jail. What does she mean when she says, if you're not careful? She means that they must stay out of the way of the police. She says something a little later which means the same. Find that sentence. I'll leave you to find it yourself. Where did the girl lead Velu to? The girl led, L-E-D, led Velu to a marriage hall. What did they get to eat? They got some old bananas and a vada to eat. What work did she do? Think of one word. Answer, she was a garbage collector. We move on. They walked along the roads again for half an hour and came to a bridge across a dirty little river. She calls it a river, but he's horrified and says this was a canal. There were strange huts built near there. They were built of metal, tires, bricks, plastic. They were slums. They were scrap. They were built out of scrap and waste. They stood crookedly and did not look very strong. Is this where you live? What strange houses. In our village, houses are made of mud and palm leaves. Of course, villages are beautiful places. Slums are the places where poor, homeless people in cities live. She went to one of the huts and picked up an empty sack after dumping her full one and said, "Come on." She gave him a shove. That's a push. "Help me now." She threw him some shoes and pushed a sack and stick. He did not understand what work he was supposed to do. He had only been he was a cowherd, took cows out to graze, and he had done farm work on the landowner's farm. He didn't have his own farm. "Are there farms in the city?" he asked. She laughed and said, "Farms? We are rag pickers. Rag pickers are garbage collectors." "I collect from rubbish," she told him. "Yes, any rubbish. Paper, but not any old rubbish. Paper, plastic, glass, and such things. And then I can sell it." She's a recycler. She's actually doing a job that needs to be done much more, only not by poor little children. He was puzzled. Why would anyone want to buy rubbish? Well, he sells it to a factory and then they recycle it. So they begin to work, and what happens to Velu? Despite the fact that he's not happy about it, he says to himself, "For now, I will be a garbage collector." And to comfort himself, he says, "I will find a better job after that." This is part of a story, I believe. We come to the comprehension check on page 15. What materials are the strange huts made of? The huts are made of metal sheet, tires, bricks, wood, and plastic. Why does Velu find them strange? Velu finds, present tense because does. Velu finds them strange because they were crooked and looked like they would fall at any moment. What sort of things did Jaya and the children like her collect? Jaya and the children like her collected garbage like paper, plastic, and glass, and they sold it to Jam Bazaar Jaggu is what he's called. They sold it to a recycler. Is Velu happy or unhappy to find work? Give a reason. I believe it's a mixed feelings. Velu is happy. These questions go from present to past all the time. Let's stick with the tense that the question is asked in. Velu is happy to find work because he is hungry and confused. He is, however, unhappy to be a garbage collector and comforts himself by thinking that he will find a better job later. And with that, we have come to the end of this chapter. If you wish to do the exercises on this page, you can do them by yourself and or ask me for help on page 16. Discuss the questions in small groups. Is he a smart boy? How do you know? What do you think? Is Jaya brave and sensitive? Does she have a sense of humor? Talk about it. What about what one throws away as waste may be valuable to others? You know this. We live in villages. We are very aware of this. Then you can think it over. Best investment that a country can make is to feed its children. What about this other thing? A busy official was passing through a village. Is it a man, you know? It's kind of interesting. No, it's a dog. I don't know, he says. It just shows that he cares about animals. I'm happy to discuss the exercises on this page with you once you have completed the previous work.